Okay, this week's course was the Links at Gettysburg. This course is just over the Maryland-Pennsylvania line just off Route 15. It is literally about as far away from Gettysburg as you can get and still be in Pennsylvania down Route 15. But it's a nice place. It is a relatively new upscale neighborhood, certainly borderline McMansions, really nice place. Probably even better than most places in terms of having golf courses on it, but the course was nice. It was a decent, modest course, but still a good course. Very challenging course in terms of putting. All the greens were in decent condition and had a fair amount of slope on them. This was certainly one of the harder greens to putt on that I've played in a long while, and I would say that the holes themselves were decently challenging, but not overwhelmingly so. The course is 7,000 yards from the back tees and slope 140, and I would say that it doesn't quite play up to 140. I did shoot a 109 on it, which I think was a little higher than I normally would have shot if I wasn't quite so hot. It certainly, we started off at about 10:30, and over the day it just got, it was a really nice day, but it was very bright, and it just got brighter and brighter and brighter. And I think getting into the 7th, 8th, 9th hole, I just started getting certainly very heat stroke-ish, very hot, and started making some silly mistakes. But before then, I actually had a fair number of pars. I think I had 3 pars in a row on the front side, and then my score ballooned a little bit at the end of the front side, and then certainly in the middle of the back side. So I came in about my normal, a little bit over my normal average, plus 16, plus 19. So I can't say that it was easy, but it didn't really seem that hard. It seemed like when I was hitting fairways and making approach shots, I certainly was hitting a decent average, and I had a couple of 3 putts, and certainly on the backside, I had some holes where I had some 4, 5, and 6s on approach. So I don't think it was really tough, but it certainly wasn't easy. And you had to play, decent enough golf, but it wasn't like you had to play this outrageously great golf. The thing is, it was challenging enough, but not overbearingly so. There were quite a few holes that had water running along the side of the fairways. Par 5 with water running along the entire side of the fairway, and then coming back there's a par 4 also. There was some interesting shot. Certainly there was a nice downhill, probably about 100 feet or so downhill, maybe 50 yards downhill to a green that had a big rock face behind it. That was an interesting shot. Not too difficult, but still interesting. Certainly a couple of dog legs that were interesting. I mean, the whole course was really, I think, decently interesting. It wasn't overbearingly difficult, but it was decently interesting. And I would say it was a good meat and potatoes golf course that had enough of a balance between straight away, straight line, straight ahead fairway, level, fairways and decent approach shots, and dogleg lefts, dogleg rights, downhill crescent shots, downhill approaches, shots over gullies, a fair amount of carries off the tee, a fair amount of carries to the green. And I think it was a good balance, a good overall balance, not too much of one thing or another. I definitely thought the course was fun to play and certainly interesting to play, and I definitely would enjoy going back to play around here. There were a few downsides, of course. It had a lot of houses, a good number of houses. Certainly there were some tee shots and fairways and greens where there were a row of houses, and I mean not small houses, big houses, overlooking the shot. There's a road that cuts through the course, the Mason-Dixon line road that cuts through the course, but there wasn't a lot of traffic on that road, so the couple of times we played near the course, maybe once or twice there was a car that came through. Not really a big deal. It was very decently quiet, not too busy. The rate was good. I got on there for $50 for 18 with a cart. And it was not really a lot to complain about. It was a good, solid course with waves, with long rough here and there in places, but still basically overall a good course and certainly fun to play. It was not as tough as say, Musket Ridge was that I played a couple of weeks ago. Not at all. It was certainly decently tough, but not too tough. It was a good challenge, but not too much of a challenge. I would say it actually played more like a 130 course than a 140 course, and I certainly enjoyed the round. That was definitely at least a B/B plus course. Nice clubhouse. It actually had showers in there, a couple of small shower stalls, but still showers, changing room, outdoor grill, indoor bar, nice bar, good, people there, good service. And it was a good, decent round. I wouldn't say it was a big, wide, ostentatious course. It was a kind of on the narrow side with decently narrow fairways and large greens, but with decent action. A good course to play, a good, solid neighborhood course to play. Absolutely one of the better neighborhood courses that I've played, without being too large, too wide, too ostentatious, and too long. Nothing like that. Just a good, solid course. Oh yeah, also one of the reasons I can't quite give it a B+ is because we did have some greenskeeper fouling on the 5th and 6th holes. And while I know it's early, it was early in the day and they're trying to do work and all this kind of stuff. It was really funny because the greenskeepers they jumped in between us and the group ahead of us to do some work on a sand trap that was obviously under repair, which I'll get to in a minute, which is another issue. Another reason it's not quite a B+. But they jumped in between us, did some work, saw us coming up the fairway, and we got within 50 yards of them, and they're right next to the green. So they finally decided, oh, okay, we'll move. And they moved. Where did they move? They moved to the next hole. They moved to the next hole. So we tee off, and they're sitting on the far side of the fairway on the right, but reachable. And one of the guys I was playing with actually drove past them, and they're sitting there watching us, go up. It's a short 350-yard hole, and they're sitting there like it was like they were paying to watch us play, and in between the group ahead of us and the group that I was in. So some greenskeeper fouling, although it wasn't blatantly, in your face annoying like they were on the greenskeeper fouling, but they were certainly in the fairway in front of us. So anyway, in any case, the other thing that was a problem, I think, was a lot of the green sand traps were in just bad condition, considering it was, it's the middle of July, and a lot of them were dirt, if not clay, dirt with water, because it had rained the last 2 or 3 days. They certainly were soaked, but they were just bad. They were just not in good condition. Some of them actually were overgrown, where they had grass growing through the sand, in the middle of the sand trap. So there were a very few sand traps on this course that were actually in good condition, didn't have rocks, had decent sand. Very few, most of them were dirt, and a lot of them were clearly under repair or looked like they needed to just be redone. Let's put it that way. So for the sand traps, that's one problem. The greenskeeper fouling was another. The fact is that there's a lot of houses on the course, and even, they even sort of blended them into the course in some places, like on the 18th hole. I'll you can see it from the pictures. It just didn't quite have it firing on all cylinders, but there were some nice holes, and it certainly was a nice enough course to play if you didn't, nitpick, as it were. It was a decent enough course to play, and certainly fun. I definitely enjoyed playing it, but I can't give it a B+. It just wasn't quite up to that level of a course. That is the links at Gettysburg I wouldn't say Gettysburg. It is easily 15 to 20 miles south of Gettysburg, but a little bit north of Emmitsburg also. Along Route 15, so let's call it Gettysburg, just because that's what it's called. The links at Gettysburg in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Nice, I would say a borderline B+ course. It was a good course. Not quite B+, but pretty close.